Hello, this is Julian with Coffee Reviews, and today we'll be reviewing the Carmelita Copacabana Anaerobic Processed Bolivia from Drop Coffee. And there's the box right there. And Drop Coffee based out of Stockholm, Sweden, and this is their third time appearing on our channel, as we had two of their coffees during Cafe Box's 2020 Advent Calendar, where we had identified Drop as one of our favorite coffee roasters from the entire Advent Calendar series. So the prospect of getting a full box of their coffee was a pretty enticing one. We were looking through the offerings that they had, and this was the one that sounded most interesting, most in line with our flavor profile as well. So we were very much looking forward to trying it. This right here is day 25 of this coffee. Now let's get the recipe out of the way. So Drop does have a recipe on their website, and it's interesting. 198 degrees Fahrenheit to 205 degrees Fahrenheit was the conversion at 16.67 to 1 water to coffee ratio. It was interesting because typically with these lighter coffees they do suggest higher temperatures, but this is what they had listed for all their coffees through the Chemex. Of course, it's brewed through the Chemex. So that's what we went with. We experimented a little bit lower temperatures, but we liked 205 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's brewed through the Chemex. This is a light Nordic for the roast profile. With that out of the way, let's start discussing the coffee itself. So day 19. Pretty slight sweetness in a more medium-bodied cup of coffee, which was unusual for it being a Nordic coffee to have this more medium body, but okay first impression, some subtle but not overly prominent fruits. Day 20 went back, and we're actually pretty impressed on the second day, pretty impressed. Early descriptors, what we would probably describe as a really excellent done Central American washed coffee. And I think for a lot of coffee people, when you say that term, you kind of know what that means, you know, chocolatey, medium bodied, just very well done just overall. Some delightful candy sweetness that was coming from it as well. Day 21, a lot in the cup of coffee, actually a little bit more than we had experienced earlier on. A bit of fleshy fruits, some very slight berry, but mostly dominated by this delightful candy sweetness. And we were trying to figure out what this candy sweetness was because it was such a familiar candy sweetness. And day 22 is when we figured it out. And the way we kind of worked through this process was, this tastes kind of nutty. It tastes like peanuts. And we're like, what is kind of a sweet peanut coated in chocolate? And then it's like, is it a Reese's cup? Not quite. It actually tastes like Reese's Pieces. It tastes so similar to Reese's Pieces. Creamy combination of sweet nuttiness that can only be described as peanut butter with chocolate, finished off with what might be a kind of grape or wine, but it was ever so slight. So yeah, actually went, grabbed ourselves some Reese's Pieces, and was like, this is exactly what the coffee tastes like, because back in the day we used to love Reese's Pieces. Don't eat them too often, but just kind of wanted to rekindle that love for Reese's Pieces, as this coffee did such an amazing job of that. Day 23, pretty consistent, has quite a bit of depth to it still. In addition to this peanut candy sweetness, there's an additional candy sweetness that we were also trying to figure out. Given that we felt we got the first candy sweetness, we're still trying to figure out the second one. Overall description of this coffee starts off with this slight fruity start, settles into this amazingly distinct Reese's Pieces flavor of kind of creamy, rich peanut butter and chocolate. And then it tapers off into this candy sweetness that we probably could describe as maybe like a mango or a grape bubblegum, because it's this like bubblegum sort of flavor to it. You know, because here's the way that this coffee is. It's pretty traditional, kind of Central American, even though it's a South American. Kind of this traditional Central American cup of coffee. Medium bodied, chocolatey, nutty, very rich, but it has these great sweet flavors that are subtle, but at the same time very distinct, and it makes for a really fun and pleasant cup of coffee, something never experienced before with an anaerobic. Alright, let's go ahead and put up the tasting wheel so you can see what we were getting. And this tasting wheel definitely looks different from a lot of other things that a lot of other tasting wheels we've done in the past. Chocolate sweetness high, but then you'll see those three on the other side of the tasting wheel. Pretty clean cup of coffee, heavy bodied, and the savoriness is pretty high because of that nuttiness that's in this coffee. Not too much else. Slight bit of florals, slight bit of berry fruit, slight bit of citrus. Those are florals level 2, berry, and stone fruit at level 3. The lingering finish, here's the thing, both the sweetness and the finish we were kind of flipping on. The sweetness could have been a level 3 or it could have been a level 4, probably like a 3.5. And the finish could have been a level 3 or a level 4. It also probably could have been in a 3.5, but kept flipping those. The tasting wheel was a little difficult because a lot of these were in between, but for the most part, feel the tasting wheel looks pretty good. So our overall thoughts and impressions of this coffee, this is really, really good. This would be, if we were to end the year right now, this would be a top 10 coffee for us for sure. This is our second Bolivia of the year, and it's also the second. That also means that both Bolivias right now would end up in the top 10 of our favorite coffees this year. Bolivia is doing some really amazing coffees right now. Yeah, Drop right now is probably our favorite Swedish coffee roaster. They've done every coffee we've had from them we've really liked, and definitely want to try some more Drop coffees in the future. Type of person we would suggest this coffee to. Somebody that does like the more medium bodied cups of coffee but really enjoys the sweetness that comes from it as well. If you're a big fan of peanutty, like peanut flavors, especially Reeses Pieces, oh my god, this was so good. Love Reeses Pieces, love this cup of coffee. Not the biggest chocolate person, but when it comes to Reeses Pieces, when it comes to peanut butter chocolate, it is so good. This was really, really good. The sweetness was great. We can't harp on that enough. It's not our favorite coffee of the year. We don't want to get too carried away, but that being said, this is easily one of the best for not being a special variety like a geisha. One of the best coffees we've had this year, just truly stunning cup of coffee. So massive props to Drop on this one. But we're going to stop gushing about this coffee. We're going to leave it at that. If you've by chance tried this coffee, we'd love to know your thoughts and impressions of it as well. Were you guys blown away? If you're enjoying the content, give this video a like and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. This right here has been a review of the Carmelita Copacabana Anaerobic Bolivia from Drop Coffee. Thank you for watching.